Alright, looking into this truck here, it's got a stiff rear brake, so I'm going to take it apart. First thing you do, you pull the wheel cover off there. It's held on with those plastic nuts there. And then you get at the wheel. I'm going to take my impact, take the lug nuts off, get the tire off, and then pull the brake drum apart and take a look at the inside. So I got the rear drum off. Use of the hammer and a large screwdriver to pry that off of there. It was slightly hung up on these shoes, not as bad as I've ever seen it, but I was able to get it to come off without trying to crank the adjuster or anything down. Typical reason these start to drag is right in here. This adjuster, this self adjuster, is right in the middle in here. It's right there. See those threads? That nut right there spins, and this little lever right here catches it, so it can only extend. It can only push out farther on these pads. As they wear, it's supposed to adjust itself and keep the pads tight inside that drum. And they get stuck, they get rusty, they get stuck, and then they start to drag those pads. Those pads actually are in really good shape. You can see all the material left on those. That's in really good shape. The drum itself is in pretty decent shape. Some pitting from rust because it's been sitting, but no real grooves or anything in there. It's pretty smooth, actually. So all this looks in pretty decent shape. So I'm just going to try and get that adjuster out of there, lube it all up, spray it down, turn it in so that it loosens these pads up a little bit and lets that wheel spin a little freer. All right, so I managed to loosen up that adjuster. Got some good high quality lubricant down inside there, and basically what you need to do is this little arm here holds it, catches on those teeth, and keep it from backing off. So backing off in this case is turning it up. Whichever way that little arm is holding it from turning is the loosening way to make it shorter in here, so these shoes will move in towards each other. So I got it freed up. It was seized, backed it off a bunch, so now the drum will go back on there just fine and spin without dragging. And theoretically, when you operate the truck, you back it up, stomp on the brakes, and that self adjuster should adjust by ratcheting against that self tensioner and tightening it back up after a few backward stops. So it's kind of how they work. So we'll throw the drum back on here. It should spin just fine. Okay, drum's back on, tires back on. As you can see, this just spins just fine. It was dragging before. I mean, it doesn't freewheel, but that's to be expected. The drums do have some contact with the shoes, but I couldn't even spin it with my foot before. I had to grab a hold of it and turn it, so it's definitely dragging. Now it's not, so one more issue fixed on this truck. Keep working on the other little things, and it'll be back on the road before too long.